Alrighty, so welcome back to another Sunday breakdown. It's your boy Juicy Banks, and today, y'all guys know we're breaking down JJ. Now, the past 3 months have been bearish. I fucking get it. Y'all guys don't have to say it. But you know what? Before we even jump into that, I hope you guys are blessed. Hope you guys are actually ready for another trading week. Just keep in mind the only thing that we control in this market, we don't control the conditions, we don't control the terms. The only thing that we actually do control is the risks that we use. Always remember that. Remember to keep God first as well. All right, so yeah, the past 3 months, as you can see, um, July, August, and October have been kind of bearish. We've been kind of, making this retest down after we kind of made these all-time highs at 207, really like around almost 208. These all-time highs. So the very first thing I do want to point out is the trend is your friend. So, let's not be naive to the trend. Now, this is where we are as of right now. Now, the very first thing I'm going to be looking out for as far as for structure goes is supply and demand zones. I kind of want to draw them wherever pertinent as in, where they apply. So we have an area of supply. Hopefully it turns into demand over here. Same thing up here. We have an area of supply. Hopefully it turns into demand in the future. And then basically where this price point is, we're looking in this area for an interaction. Now, based on what I see, we have something right around here that I can potentially use, but I feel like on this time frame, inadequately. Like there's one like right around here, right? Where right here we could use it both left and right. It just hasn't made sense for me quite yet, but this is kind of what it is. My zone did cut through price, and you can see over here resistance, resistance, resistance. So it's been resistancing a lot. So don't want to adequately count this one, but we'll see as we go down to the lower time frames. As far as for the overall direction, clear as day, we're still in an uptrend, right? And even on this monthly time frame, we're in this area. Now, potentially, right? Because I can see a zone right here as well, right? Potentially, price can actually drop potentially into this area right around here, into the golden zone. We can potentially even get a golden zone retest. Not 100% sure yet, but as we go down to these lower time frames, you can see here like we're on the weekly time frame as of right now. And this is where we're going to kind of be able to get a little bit more sharper with the details. Obviously, you can see the higher time frame structure from this swing to this swing based on where we are, right? And all these things are relatively important, but one of the main things that we do need to kind of understand outside of that is the trend within the trend, so that way we kind of understand where we are and where we're going. So allow me to do that now. Let me just go ahead and make some tweaks. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw the actual structure based on how I see it here, and then from here I'm gonna make any tweaks. Now, the things with this, right? When it comes to actually just drawing structure and being able to kind of identify where you are in structure, I feel like the most important thing throughout it all is knowing the difference between what's a retest and what's actual market structure. We'll change it to black. Now that we change it to black, we can delete this previous one, right? So knowing what's a retest and what structure is going to be highly important in the overall process. And I say that because like right here, we can tell that this is structure. We can tell that this is a retest. We can tell that we had some type of structure that really hit down here, and that these are just retests, and an overall structure. So obviously I'm able to kind of identify this based on, me kind of seeing things and me kind of understanding, where it is that I am in structure overall. But what's going to kind of help me dictate it overall is, again, based off of this history and me just doing it, right? 1 second, let me check. Okay, yeah. Based on the overall of history of me just doing it, that's kind of what's going to kind of be able to help me dictate and kind of understand these things. So now that I'm on this time frame, the same zone that I drew right here, I can actually clean it up and make it fit this time frame. I think on this time frame, because I use black on the higher time frame, I'll probably use like a caution color like blue, right, for any overlapping zones. Now, as far as for these zones, you can see here that like this one that I stretch all the way from over here, you can see like resistance, support, and then resistance, so on. And then if we come over here in the same zone, it actually acted as an area of support over here. And then we have resistance. So you can see essentially what's happening is we're going from zone to zone. So never really lose that sense of thought as far as the structure goes. Now, I know on this time frame, essentially what we can do, because you can see over here, obviously we've been in an uptrend, right? And that this was the previous higher high that needed to be broken. So I think we're gonna save red for when we go lower. But this was the previous higher high right here, and I'll make an eclipse so you guys can see it. Previous higher high, right? Which I'll make in green because the trend is your friend. Green, a black outline, right? And then from here we can just clone these, and it looks like the next higher high is going to even be somewhere up here. This is what we're striving to figure out. But throughout this, right, throughout this overall process, we need to be actually figuring out what is the higher lows. The higher lows is actually what maintains an uptrend, so never forget that. So because of that, I'm looking at it, and this one appears to be a higher low right here. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to delete the fib because we already kind of have it outlined. And what we're going to do is, this is the higher high, but essentially what we're going to do is we're going to go down and measure a minor structure from right here to right here. And essentially, even though we're coming down here and we're measuring minor structure, we still don't essentially follow the actual higher highs that it's making, because these are just highs, right? So essentially what's going to happen is you can get easily confused if you don't know your higher high areas, especially in the trend. So that's why these things are important. You can see here that we tested 61.8, right? Look at the details. We tested 61.8, right? But found support at 50%. 50% for me is a market structure level. So bing, bang, boom. So now we can actually start it right there, and then you can see where I have it listed. Keep in mind, whenever we draw our fibs, we do draw them from wick to wick. So always keep that in mind. Now, if you guys, fun fact, if you guys know, 23.6 isn't a market structure level, but now you can see that we dragged it past this previous higher high, which is why we kind of have it listed, right? So then we drag our fib up higher. Boom, we can see 23.6 here getting tested. Again, another 23.6 here getting tested. And then boom, finally up here, another 23.6 getting tested. So at no way, shape, and form on this time frame did we actually ever make another higher high, right? And then from up here, right, we can see here, boom. Now keep in mind, all these are essentially higher highs. So let's not get it twisted in a sense, but what makes an actual higher high and higher high is when you get an actual higher low. You have to get an actual market structure higher low in order to actually get a higher high. So just always keep that in mind. So on this time frame, right? On this time frame, this was the next relevant higher high, right? Because essentially, if we were supposed to measure over here, this pullback gave us this push up. So this pullback, it did give us all of these, but none of these were actually higher lows for us to actually look at until essentially we got up here to where we're looking at this overall move now to where we could potentially be dropping down here. So right off the back, one thing that I want to do is I want to list a institutional level called a QP, right? And we're just going to list it right around here at the 177.250 area. The reason for this looks like the common area of support in this overall area. And keep in mind, quarter points, aka QPs, these are how the markets and the banks kind of move the markets. These are fundamental, technical, and institutional support and resistance levels. So I just kind of have this one marked off because we have a lot of confluence right here. So potentially what we could potentially see is maybe to where we continue going bearish to here and then we push up here. So this is my outlook just for the daily time frame. I'm sorry, the weekly time frame. Once I get down to the daily time frame, the data is subjected to change. So you can see I grabbed the screenshot there for you guys, and yeah, let's continue. So I'm gonna kind of delete this, and this is how I'm looking now. So let's continue to go down lower and kind of break this down some more. All right, so this is where things get a little bit more interesting, a little bit more meticulous, right? We could see here this same higher high that we made up here, and then we came back down here and made the higher low and everything of the such. We have a lot more data to kind of play with. We have a lot more data that we can use to kind of critique, right? We can see over here where we were ranging, right? The only reason why I'm coming down this low is because we're going to use red on this time frame, and red is one of my favorite colors because it's a caution color. So it's going to really kind of help us make everything kind of stand out a little bit more better. You can see down here where I'm actually drawing this zone from, right? Let's make it red, red, boom. You can see over here where we had previous higher highs. I used the body to wick of this candle right here, this middle one, right? From body, kind of get a little bit thinner. From body to wick, and we stretch it from left to right. We can see overall where we have this overall area of support and resistance. It was resistance over here, and then it turned into support over here based on price. So we could kind of see how price kind of ranged from zone to zone, right? Now, essentially, we have this higher time frame data as far as for structure goes, but there's so much more data added now, and it's a lot more details. Keep in mind, we're going to use these details to kind of help us make sense on where we are as far as for price action goes. So these little details are going to be the utmost important at all times. You dig what I'm saying? So what we're going to do from here is we're going to actually realign and redraw structure. So allow me to draw, and then keep in mind, once we're done, because we're using red on this time frame, we're going to use red as well. So we're going to go ahead and draw it. And notice how I'm just drawing the overall area of structure. Notice that we have a lot of retests in this overall area. I'm not more so worried anything about the retests. I'm more so just making sure that I get the areas of structure that I know that is needed based on higher time frame to lower time frame. That's what's most important, because again, the whole point of overlapping your previous time frame when you draw it is so you can see the higher time frame swings, but so you can make sense of the structure and where you are and when a transition of structure happens. Keep in mind, identifying a transition of structure is going to be highly important, because you're going to be able to kind of see when you turned into an uptrend, when you went into a downtrend, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So being able to kind of spot these transitions, especially when you're in the trend, is going to be highly important. So I recommend that you learn how to draw this shit. All right. This is where structure gets a little funky with the consolidation. Then we do this massive push up. And then from here, it's retest city. I like the daily a lot. When it comes down to the daily time frame, I actually don't. Anything under this is going to be an analyzing time frame, right? Where I analyze where I am in the overall move. So when it comes to analyzing in general, I just make sure like I'm on point as far as for what I see. But now we have so much more data, and now check this out, right? We could say fares here that this is the previous market structure high or low, which I'll make a little zone right here. We'll probably make it in a different color, right? And we can say that once price kind of broke this area because of this last higher low, it looks like right here, to maintain the trend, we went officially into a downtrend, which we could use this. And then once this got broken and retested, we went back up into an uptrend. In other words, what I'm trying to say is it's a perfect time to draw a trend line. Now you can draw a trend line like this, or you can draw a trend line like this. Now, essentially, because this area got broken, right? Which I haven't found the right color, but I'm using red on this time frame, so we'll just leave it red. Essentially, because this appears to be a higher low, and we kind of shifted off into the sell-off here, I would recommend using this. Now, the only thing is that we need a point A to draw this, and we need a point B. So point A, point B, and you can see that we crashed into support, and then from here we kind of went up. So essentially, it's kind of easy to kind of see where we are, especially if you draw these trend lines. Keep in mind, anything you do on this time frame should be red. Bam. So from here on out, we have that same fib. I'm gonna actually delete the fib, and after I delete this fib, right, the goal is from here on out to figure out where we are within structure. So looking at it from here, Bing. Now, the only reason why I have this like this is because this is where the details of structure kind of come in a lot more efficiently. Keep in mind, this is where we broke officially, and this wick kind of pushed back up above. So I can tell on a certain time frame that I have one candle here, right? I have one candle here, but I know once I go down to a low enough time frame, I'm gonna get a better, more efficient candle that I can use to kind of interpret structure. So all I'm going to do now is just stay focused and continue dragging up. So we can see that we're getting a lot of 23.6s, especially on the daily. So it looks like this daily time frame is really, in a sense, repeating the same higher time frame strengths. So I could tell you that on this daily time frame, right, we're still going to be following this overall fib that we took on a higher time frame, right? Because even up to right here, it's a lot of 23.6 action. Nothing has really changed, right, with any of the pullbacks, with anything at all. So we're actually going to delete this and just leave the eclipse right here. The eclipse is going to signify where we start, but if I go backtrack to the weekly and I zoom in, the data hasn't changed for the overall sense of where I see this going as far as for it potentially dropping back down here. So we're going to delete that. We're going to go to the 12-hour. Oh, that's embarrassing. I don't got the 12-hour. All right, let me see. To 11-hour. Give me a second. Let me upgrade this, guys. I'll be right back. All right, so I was able to upgrade my trading view. I just remembered I got a new card. Super embarrassing, but it happens. Fuck it, it's life. You feel me? Back to it though. All right, so this was the main point that I was trying to get to, right? Was you see how right here, how this was the area that I solidified as being an area of structure of importance, right? You see how price kind of came down, we broke underneath this, and then we kind of made the trend transition right around here, right? Notice how I have this trend line kind of drawn. So I knew that this was the buying area. Understand this now, right? This area right here is where buyers took over, right? And we did a variation. If I stretch this over here like this, right? This area right here where this red line is, this is where the last seller's candle within this whole area. We've already started the trend going upwards, right? We already bounced into this demand zone. We can kind of see everything. This is where buyers took over. All we did was come back and do what we call a retest on where buyers took over. And then we kind of elevated the trend going upwards. So all this was a market structure retest, but we came back and essentially took where we actually originally broke structure from. So this is how you know basically you're in line with structure. Now, keep in mind, right? This eclipse up here is for the actual higher high. But keep in mind, when we draw it from here to here, we're measuring the higher lows. So you're gonna notice that I'm gonna draw this from here to here, and notice this. Notice that on this 12-hour time frame, because now we're on our analyzing time frames, that we actually have a 38.2 right here, but we have some wicks. If I change it to the 11-hour time frame and I come back to the same area, you're going to notice that on these wicks, we actually have a body of price printing on this level. Now, because we have a body of price printing on this level, this is going to solidify this area as being a market structure area to where we can boom, do like that, and do like this. So now, based on this analyzing time frame, we can actually move up in sequence. Now, keep in mind, we don't look at anything different until we actually get past the higher high on a larger scale. So a lot of these structure points that you're about to see me highlight are just what was used to maintain the trend in the overall direction. Notice that I actually got a retest right around here as well. So we can actually continue moving upwards as well. Delete that. And then from here, same thing. We can draw it upwards and go high like this, and then boom. Now, watch this. This is how you know you're in the right direction of trend, right? You're always going to use the left to help you understand the right. Now, we're on a lower time frame. Uh, we're on a lower time frame, the 11-hour, and then keep in mind the 11-hour for me is an analyzing time frame. So because of this, we're going to use a sequence color, probably green, right? Anything that's green under these lower time frames we're using. And you can just see essentially we made a high right here, not a higher high because it's not higher than this previous one, which we have to apply this blue zone, but we made a high and right. But we're still making higher lows at these areas, which a 50% for me is a market structure area. And you can just see what I'm doing, right? Now, essentially, this is where it gets interesting because the eclipse is right here at this same area. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a green zone right around here. And then I know once we pass this area, essentially, right? Because what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna add another eclipse right here, and then I know that once we pass this area, this is the overall higher high within this area because it's symmetrical to this one. So then I know that I'm moving via the right direction of trend. All these little things are done so that way we can understand the maintenance of trend, right? And then from here, boom, this is where it gets really lit, right? Notice that this is the higher high up here. Now notice on this time frame alone, we have a wick right here essentially, right? We have a wick right here, which means we can use this as an area of maintenance of trend at the lowest standstill being this wick. We have two options. We can go down lower or, right? We didn't have any market structure levels that were made at this area or at the standpoint, right? Now, this is via the 11-hour time frame. Keep in mind, from your 12-hour all the way down to your 1 hour, these are all different perspectives that you're analyzing the overall trend. Remember, the overall trend on this higher time frame back on the weekly time frame is we're starting our fib from here, and we're going from here all the way up here to get this retest right here. But now we're looking at the details of things as we go down lower to make sense of everything, right? So again, right around here, if I go down lower, like let's say the 8-hour, I presume it is the 8-hour that kind of made the market structure movements on this. Yep. You see 8-hour, we actually have a solid print. What I can do is I can do this, right? Boom. And then what I can add in here is we'll add a text and we'll say 8-hour HL. That's going to signify for an 8-hour higher low. I instantly know that I'm analyzing off of the 8-hour time frame, And then from here, everything should be perceived. So if that's the case, and we're going to use this, keep in mind that what do we have to do? We have to draw our zone so we know where our overall next higher high can actually be at, right? Because once we break the zone, we're making an actual higher high, and that everything from there is just used for maintenance of the trend. So boom, we can see from here, we barely made it to 38.2, but then from here, we actually get a higher high, right? We get a higher high, 23.6, right? And then from here, right, we actually did get a 38.2, failed, kept on going down low, and boom. Now, here's the next best interesting thing. You see like how I got a zone here, I got a zone here, and essentially how I'm gonna now have another zone right up here. Essentially, this should actually ensure and make sure and help us out that we know where we are overall in the overall area of trend, right? Because for our next higher high outside of this one, right, we got to go higher than this one. So now we know where we are. And then this is where the little mini downtrend came. Now, peep this, right? Peep this. Remember right here how we were originally retesting at this area and we found support, right? Keep in mind over here, right, that this is the actual higher low in this overall defined range, right? But we had these pullbacks at these areas right here. You can still create a demand zone, right? A demand zone, right? Because demand means support to keep up, supply means resistance, right? We can keep an overall demand zone right here and we can stretch it from left to right and boom. Now we have a defined range, right? And we started this demand zone from essentially right here, right? So have a good one. So because we trap price right here and we can kind of see, now peep this, right? We came down, we retested, we came down. Now watch this. We didn't know that this was going to be our higher low, but look at these rejections. Everything's in the details of the power of the candlesticks. So just keep in mind that, boom, we saw these steep rejections. And then not only that, but watch this. I'm going to delete this. And then literally from this area to this area, just peep this, right? Down, retest, came back up, boom, came back up. We're striving, came back up, boom, came back up, boom, 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 boom. Then we came all the way back down here. Then we came, retest, pull back, shot up, retest, pull back, shot up. And then it's like, boom, check this out, right? It was really right around here that, again, we were kind of gearing for a transition. I want y'all to pay attention to this though, right? Look at this. Overall, we're in a downtrend. We can clearly see lower. We kind of saw it coming. We didn't really break until right around here because it's the overall support of this overall area based on the previous higher high. But we know instantly once we broke from here, we were significantly in a downtrend. Peep this. Again, counter trend line should be your friend once you kind of notice these things. Now, you could top it off from right here, right? But then obviously you're going to get this one cutting through price. So keep in mind, whenever you're drawing trend lines, you always want to use what is relevant. Keep in mind what is relevant. Now, if we draw it from here to here, check this out. Boom. So now we got it from here. Now, point A, point B, obviously this can be a point C and boom. Keep in mind, this was the previous lower high in this overall area right here, which I'll make in red. Notice that we've already made the lowest low that we could have possibly made. And this is just where, you know, spotting these things will kind of give you the playing field advantage. Notice that we made the lowest point, and on the higher time frame, this is the area that we're looking at, a potential area of support to make a transition. But notice that price pushed up and then retested right here, right? Which means that not only do we do a break of structure, which is something that we need to kind of take a trade, right? But also we got what appears to be a higher low in the area of support. So now we mark this area off and look how we trap price in this defined range, right? So now, ideally, the higher time frame fib, we can see the bigger picture, but let's kind of move that over here for 1 second and focus on this, right? We have the overall zone up here that we need to pass. So everything that we do after this is just what we call maintenance, right? So from this wick to right here, now notice that we have all these wicks within the area. Essentially what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to get the median of all these wicks, right? When you do this, you can change time frames, right? God damn it, where was I? Oh, here we go. Essentially what you can do is you can change time frames, and then essentially what you can do within this defined range, right, is you see how we got the median of all the wicks to be somewhere like around here now. And now from here to here, we can see that we got a 50%. And all we're doing is maintenance right now. Boom. This overall area. Boom. Notice that we got support, we got resistance, we got a whole bunch of things going on in this area. This is how you know ideally this is going to be a great area, right? And then from here, what we now can do is we're going to basically see, the steepness of the retest is because boom, right? We're right here, and we can see that this overall area of support was never broken from this original area. We strive to break this area going from zone to zone multiple times, but we failed. We failed. Even if we wanted to look at it from here, from a standpoint of drawing another supply and demand zone right here and going from left to right, boom, we can see the overall area of resistance and support. Within this overall area, we made it through this zone. We came back. We used this as resistance, support, resistance, support. The whole moral of it is if we kept it right here, right, and we did it from here to here, we would have still saw that we were maintenance this whole area right here, which is essential. This is why it's essential to know where you are within structure. So if you get confused and you flip back and you change perspectives, your perspective should always add up to the higher time frame based on where you are, right? Keep in mind that this is a bearish candle. We're using the bullish candle as well as right here. So we got 61.8. So now we're kind of caught up to basically where we are within structure. Hopefully you guys have been following along. And then now we got all of this, right? Essentially what you're going to see from here, right, is that I'm going to drag this up. Yes, I got market structure. I'm going to move it up. It's going to maintenance. It's going to maintenance. It's going to maintenance. Overall, eventually what's going to happen is a big break of structure is going to happen, right? This is how we prevent these things. If you come back to your analyzing time frame, right? Keyword is analyzing time frame, right? Remember that your daily time frames and higher are your analyzing time frames. Keep in mind that you shouldn't be using anything higher than this. So that's how you get lost in the sauce. So essentially, if we draw it from wick to wick, right, we would have noticed that once we broke past this previous high point, that boom, right, we would have gotten right here, would have saw that, hey, structure maintained, right, because we went previous to the highest on this previous analyzing time frame, right? We made the highest high that we could possibly do. Now we're kind of waiting, right? So what happens from here? We're going to draw structure. And essentially, you're just going to follow the same process over and over when you're doing your analyzing process to ensure and make sure that you know where you are within structure. So keep in mind, what do we have right here? Let's clone it. Clone, drag this over. Oops, a little bit big. Sorry about that. We're going to put this right here, and you'll see why in a second, right? Overall, from here, we made a downtrend, right? A temporary downtrend. We came back low. We still came back to this overall area of support. We didn't come lower than this overall 8-hour perspective. So we could still use the 8-hour structure. And we could see here from here how structure is maintained throughout this whole area. It was a lot of ranging that happened, but we never broke this overall area of support right around down here, which is highly essential, right? But we did come back and make an 88.6, which to me, based on a bigger perspective, is a market structure area. But not only that, but now we have alignment with where we are, right? So then from here, so really, this was the last market structure area that we made. Anything after this on the same perspective, you can see 23, right? 23, which is right here. 23. Now, however, on this daily perspective, we did get a 38.2 right here, right? So this was, to me, as a sequence of a market structure area, which from here, I'll add my little zone. Bing, bong, boom. You see it played out as resistance. And then from here, boom, right? Delete that fib. And then boom. Boom, boom, boom. And then eventually, as you can see, we came down, we hit way below, and then boom. Kind of retested this area. Now we kind of fell, right? So overall, this is what I see, right? Keep in mind, zones, I already dragged them from left to right. So I have a powerful zone right here that already can play its course, right? I have another zone from this higher high right here that I can drag, and it can also play its course as well, right? So there's potential areas to look at from this left to right. Now, one thing that I always want y'all guys to remember so you guys don't get lost in the sauce is even though that this one broke on this time frame, we still have an overall weekly perspective, which essentially we can start off from right here. which means that at this higher high, right, and this higher low, boom, this is the overall perspective that we're looking at as of right now until this one's broken. And once this one's broken, then we kind of use the higher time frame. Now, essentially, what I'm looking at here is that buyers took over at the same area, which I'm going to make this little line right here at this original engulfing candle. And if you notice, every time buyers come below this area, they jump up. So I'm going to make this into a caution color. We'll probably use yellow just so I can look out for this area, right? Outside of that, I have a zone that I can draw from right here. I could essentially make it thicker, right, to suit this time frame of the weekly. And I can see here, boom. You always want to kind of adapt to the higher time frames because they're going to be a lot more stronger. Essentially, they're going to be a lot more stronger, a lot more easier, and a lot more maintainable when it comes to structure. So right now we're at a 78.6. We have not broken structure yet. We have our zones. We have our everything that we kind of use to kind of get here, you know, the fibs and everything. So we can kind of alleviate some of the unnecessary data, right? And now we can kind of see the bigger picture. Now we have a huge exhaustion candle right here. So boom, this is what I'm seeing. Let's go down to the 1 hour time frame. Oh, before we do that, let's turn this back on. Let's go to visibility and let's make sure. Oh no, I should be able to see it on the 1 hour. Let's go back to the 1 hour. All right, perfect. There we go. Now we can see it. So now essentially we have everything we need to see, right? But now peep this. From here, all right, let's go to the 3 hour. From here, this is where we made a major transition, right? We were maintaining this whole time. Maintaining, going up, going up, going up, going up. And where did we make a transition at? Right around here. Right around here. Now we're going to begin to use black, right? Now from here, it's clear as day the structure areas that we're seeing, right? And keep in mind, it was the beginning of the month. We had a lot of news. We had a lot of data. But now we can see we had a retest. Price came back down. Boom. All you're seeing is that lower highs are being maintained. That's all you're seeing, right? Price came and then we rejected and then boom. Now notice this, right? Even though lower highs are being maintained, first and foremost, we have what we call a tested candle formation. Tested candle formations are a sign of reversals. That's for one. For two, price has already decided to respect this core area right here at the 750, right? And these are all things that I'm setting up, you know, for the buy bias analysis, right? We have a 500 QP right here. So we're already beginning to reject two areas of support. Keep in mind, the same zone that I have down here is this overall zone that's been being used as support. Notice that we went down here to our lowest and that we didn't even reject. So essentially, how I'm looking at it is, right, we're going to pay attention. This is our previous market structure lower low, which we're going to make in red. And this is our previous market structure lower high, which we're going to make in red. What I can anticipate is one of two things to happen, right? Price is either going to reject off of this area, break structure, come back, boom, boom, something along the line. We can almost expect that. If we do get exhaustion around this same area from here to here, which again, I'm looking for something more so like this, exhaustion, right? And then, you know, the trend, by all means, you can already tell we're going to be in for a good amount of pips. I don't got to tell y'all. Now, stop loss obviously doesn't have to be that low, right? Boom. Something on the range of where we reject from this zone. We can probably even line it up with the previous wick. Something along these lines, right? So instantly, based on the 10-hour perspective, let me screenshot it. This is one thing that I am anticipating, right? Let's get back to it. Now, another thing that can happen is we can do the complete opposite, right? We can continue to trend downwards, break this zone, retest, and continue to go downwards. Now, where would we go if we continue going downwards? Let's figure that out. Let's go back to the daily because essentially we would break this area. Let's go back to the weekly because keep in mind the weekly is the overall area of trend. Again, if we do break this area, I'm anticipating that we're going to either come down somewhere around this area, right around here, and then strive to reject and go back up. So this is also another perspective where we can come and make a clean sweep down as well based on the weekly time frame data that we have. as of right now, that's going to be all my analysis that I do have on GJ. I feel like it's going to be a patient game, but however, you can see structure and details are lining up. Lastly, the last touch that I'll make is the higher the time frame, the stronger the data, the lower the time frame, the more details you can see. You can see that I have a beautiful point A, a point B, what seems to be a point C that's in alignment with this zone in this area right here. So I'm really anticipating a bounce probably from this zone to go back up to the upside since we dropped so hard. So let's just see. I will be trading this week live. I'll be trading live for free on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4:30 a.m. So make sure y'all guys don't miss it and make sure y'all guys join me. With that being said, God bless. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for all your support and deuces.